What is up, my papes?
Howdy,
What's
everybody.
going on?
Welcome back to this
Hey.
week's episode.
It is a week episode. Today we just decided to talk to
Oh.
one another. Oh, wait. That's what we usually do. If you don't know, this is JD McGibney. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. I have
Hi.
it on the screen so you could see it. If you want, you could delete it. Just so oh, someone deleted it.
Oh,
Someone erased it from the thing.
Oh, no, I'm sad.
I'm sad too. What's the deal with that? Anyway. What are you doing, JD? How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Great. Now that we got that over with.
Wait, what?
I'm not a fan of small talk, but what I am a fan of is knowing that I don't make this stuff up. JD
Makes up at least half of it.
at least half of it 80% of the time. The dog makes up 100% of everything 50% of the time. And it's mostly because I'm the smarts.
I'm the hearts.
Yeah, and the dog
Is definitely the farts.
Yeah, if this was smell-o-vision, you would also swell from the smell.
We don't ever want to put that
Don't
torture
do
on
it.
anyone, not even our worst enemies.
Now, today we decided to talk about something that has nothing to do with anything except for success, because that's what we talk about. We talk about success. And today's topic is tips for a successful career and some bad advice to ignore. I figured, why not? Let's do it. Let's talk about some stuff. This is lucky episode 13. No, what is this? 18? This is episode 18.
I lost count after, all of them.
Yeah, I know. We're on 18 episodes, which means we've been in prison for how long?
Imagine that was part of like the prison system. It's like in order for like you to like recover, you have to like make a podcast where you like talk about things and work things through.
Yeah, I would appreciate that kind of like rehabilitation. But my real question is, if you were in prison, how often would you proudly and openly suggest that you have pimples on your penis?
At least 42 times a day.
Yeah, you were like, hey man, I'm so glad everyone's here. I got pimples on my penis.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
People be like, I'm not into him. And not because of the reasons that you would think. Because in prison, it's not considered gay, I was told. It's just prison life.
Is it weird though if they all just smell like cottage cheese?
Well, your penis? No, you got to go to the doctor, man.
The pimples
You
on the
definitely
penis.
still have to go to the doctor. Do pimples smell?
I don't know.
Have you ever smelled? You have the most. So, like, does it smell when you lay down and they all pop instantaneously?
I mean, I don't know if they have noses though.
Oh, God. You want to hit record on the video camera so I can at least have a shot? Thanks. I appreciate it.
There we go.
That was really nice of you. Oh, look, yours is on. Anyway, it's the JD show, everyone. It's the JD show. The Thomas camera wasn't working.
We got the master camera.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad we have something. I appreciate that. Anyway, so today we are definitely going to talk about some tips. There's no number of tips. We're just going to talk about some tips.
Because I'm sure you, when you were first starting out, definitely got a lot of really bad tips and advice.
I think up until I met, well, that's not true, because some of my mentors were like when I was younger and I didn't realize they were mentors. But like, a majority of people in the industry that were helping me were either at my level or worse, and their advice was terrible. And we're going to go over some of that advice today. I'm going to ask you some bad advice you got, other than like, hey, you should get a job. Like other than that, just advice, on the entertainment industry, where they'd be like, you know what you should do? You need to wear like mayonnaise in your shoes to get the best performances.
Well, to be fair, mayonnaise does have this extra cushion for when you're walking around on stage that is just heaven.
There's nothing about this conversation that's fair. Anyway, going back. JD is an artist, by the way. And
Hi.
He has if you haven't heard, he's working on a second album. You can check it out as, what is that? MakeItRightLeftHere.com.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. You could see a link that's directly to my stuff.
Yeah, and then if you're interested in, the god of all of existence and his doom metal band, just
you go to BBR Productions.
OnTheWingsOfDragons.com.
You know what's funny about On the Wings of Dragons?
No, what's
nothing. It's scary as hell. You're just on these wings of dragons. Now, when you say it's on the wings of dragons, is it just a whole bunch of people on different wings of dragons, or is it one person holding at least two wings from two separate dragons?
Imagine
I am
basically an airline like Delta or like American Airlines, but it's just a bunch of people like in like those school chairs, like the kindergarten school chairs that are like tied to the back of a dragon, and then dragons flying.
Yeah, but it's only one. Oh, so two dragons are pulling these people.
Pretty much.
All right. So it has nothing to do with Chuck Norris.
Well, in the early days, there was one time where he did a guest appearance.
No, see, Chuck Norris is the guest appearance, and shows do guest appearances on him. You know, that's what I heard. I read that somewhere.
That makes sense.
What is this? JD's posted. He's tagging me, and I'll just add it to my story.
Listen, I hear that JD guy likes to tag things.
Oh, he just says things. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Thomas.
He says it all the time. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, JD.
Yeah, but I could say that.
How come I can't say hey, JD?
Well, that's not your shtick. He's stealing my shticks. And then he gives them back to me all broken. I'm like, what is this?
Stones.
Sticks and stones. All right, JD. What's your name?
Bob.
Oh, look at that. How often do you feel you get advice from people other than me?
No,
I don't give you advice anymore. I just say stuff.
Yeah. It's not, I feel like advice is like coated in like a nice bit of like sugar, and it sounds very, whimsical, and I feel like it could be delivered by like a Yoda character. You at this point are just like, JD, shut up and do this.
And don't JD's like, yeah, I've been doing that. Well, I'm doing it my way so I can learn how to do it. Yeah, but I just told you how to do it. Yeah, but I want to kind of like play with it. Yeah, it's been 3 days. Yeah, but I'm learning it. All right, but we need to get that thing done. Oh, well, I'll figure it out. How about you just do what I said, and then like on Thursdays when you're sleeping, work on it.
It gets done eventually.
Yeah, it should be done now. Yesterday I showed him how to edit a video. I did it like in 20 seconds.
I was like, oh wow, look at him
go. He's even making mistakes, and he's still fast.
Ooh.
There are a couple things though that would be considered good advice that you're probably given, and I just want to talk about advice in general. I listed out some advice ideas that I think would be considered good advice tips to be successful, and then we could chit chat on it, and we could talk about it. All right, first and foremost, you got to be willing to work hard, no matter what. Your success is not based on you; it's based on everyone around you. But you still have to be proactive in your efforts. So if you just wait around and wait for people to meet you or wait for things to happen, you're not really going to be successful. You're being hopeful.
Agreed.
You might be relying on, hey, I'm so awesome, amazing, unique, I'm going to get something out of this, but that's not how it works. You have to be willing to put the work in. And sometimes that gets convoluted. Someone might say to you, you got to put the work in, and you're thinking, oh, I got to be the best guitarist.
Yeah, that when you say you have to put the work in, that's very vague. It's just, anyone that starts a business definitely has to work a lot, and you're going to be working literally all day, every day, if you really want to see any growth and see any success. But just saying you have to work hard, it doesn't really give you any direction.
It's good advice, but again, it is vague. And the honest truth is, I don't believe in working hard. I believe in working productively. And there's a difference. And I say it often to people. I say, don't work too hard, but be productive. Because working hard means, to me, you're just really doing whatever you have to do to get there, and you're just putting a lot of time in it. But I believe a better word would be productive. So I hear this a lot, and this is good advice. Be willing to work hard, but I believe it should be I'm gonna change it up. Be willing to be productive.
I think a better way to say it is to be willing to work a lot, because working a lot is not the same as working hard. Working a lot can be productive, because I don't agree with that. You could work a lot and do nothing. I've seen it. I've paid people. I've seen you work, more than 12 hours in a day. But for you, it's not necessarily working hard. You're being productive, but you definitely work a lot.
Yeah,
and
but it doesn't mean work
every day.
It doesn't mean work a lot. It just means I'm productive in the time that I do work. So if I choose to work a lot, I'm productive. So productive is the tip. Being productive, because you could sit there for 12 hours and just do things, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're being productive. And productive effort really will get you farther. But the other thing is, when someone gives this advice, like you're saying earlier, it's vague. What do I do? Well, you have to know what to do, because remember, what you do is not your job. Your job is is basically affords you and earns you a right to do what you do passionately, right? So if you're just working towards things, but you don't have a direction and stuff like that, it'll be useless. And that's why a lot of the tips we're going to go over today are intersecting. Everything you do must affect everything you do. So be willing to work hard, or be willing to work productively all day long, if you want to say, isn't necessarily good advice on its own. It's just a part of something bigger. I mean, you as a band, as an example, used to work hard all the time and used to work hard often, right?
We never really went anywhere.
And you never went anywhere because you were working hard towards, even though in your mind you were being productive, you really didn't have direction.
Yeah, because we were we were working on the end result and not anything that came beforehand. So we were doing all the end bits and kind of filling in the beginning bits as we went along.
Yeah, because
which is the really slow way, as it's the cart before the horse, as they say.
Yeah, which is what you do with a lot of stuff. Also, when I tell you to do stuff, you'll start working on the end result and trying to find the fastest way to get to the end. And I'm always like, you got to change your mindset. It's about that process. It's about the journey. It's about learning the little things, because that'll make the big result better. Not that I'm saying you have to be the best at everything, and not that I'm saying that the results has to be greater than all other people.
But understanding the process of things instead of just going, oh, this needs to happen, it will make anyone a well-rounded person and will lead to more productivity instead of just going, oh, let me just make this thing happen.
And I noticed that between us, I always approach things in a methodical way, whereas you're looking for the quickest way to get to it. How do I learn the quickest way to finish this? But what I'm always showing you, to be productive, it's not about finishing things. It's about starting things, and it's about doing the process. Because believe it or not, through the process, more things are accomplished. You learn more. Your brain is becoming accustomed to the tasks and probabilities and, changes, interruptions, things like this. But if you're just looking for, how do I just finish this? That's like saying, I want to be in a successful band, or I want to be a successful actor. How do I just get into a film? How do I get my Oscar, or how do I get my Grammy, or how do I get my album done? If you're not why are you going to make the album? Have you earned the right to make the album? When is it, but in your brain, you're like, if I just, I just have to learn how to record, but all I got to do is just record the music. And if it sounds good, I'm done. But meanwhile, you're not even close to learning the technique to record. And you're not really learning the technique. You're just recording. And that's not how you learn the technique. Like, once it sounds good, hey, I learned it, but you're going the long road. And when I see people, when I say be willing to work hard, I feel you're working hard at what you're trying to accomplish when you do things, especially if I help you with things. I feel in the majority, you ignore it at least 75% of the way, and then you take the 25% you like and you work on that, and then add the JD.
I feel like we've established, especially the other day, that it wasn't that I'm ignoring you. I think that's just that there's a misunderstanding of what was being said.
Well, if I say do A, B, and C, and then you're just working on D, and I'm like, why are you working on D? And you're like, because I want to play with it myself and see where I can go. Or if
there's a misunderstanding with one of the prior things, what A, B, or C could be. Yeah. I think that was what we've established was a big chunk of the issue.
All right. Well, let's say I tell you, what order do you record the instruments in? And I say drums, bass, then rhythm guitars. And then you focus for the last couple of weeks on just say rhythm and leads and melodies. Would that be that? To me, that's going to D. Like you just skipped A, B, and C, and you went right to D. And then in your mind, the way you explain it to me is, you're just trying to fiddle around to figure out what you want to do. And then I say, well, you should do these things. Then you continue to fiddle around. Then you end up ultimately doing something that I suggested. And you're like, oh, it sounds better. And you would actually learn that process if you did it in order, because you have to create the foundation first. You're trying to go backwards. You're trying to put the body of the car on the frame and then install all the bits. And we all know that does work, but it takes the longest.
It does.
Oh yeah, but I'm just learning I'm trying to figure out the best way to make cars. And it's like, well, cars have been being put together for 100 years. They've mastered it. That's why they don't even need people anymore. They just have a robot, because they understand and they do, right? So it's the same thing with music. Even though they're always evolving techniques because of technology, the process at its core is always the same. So again, going back to be willing to work so hard, when I see you doing that, I see you working hard. And in my mind, I'm like, he could be so much more productive. It's sort of like when I was editing the video. Remember, I was like, what would you do? And you're like, I would listen to the whole thing. And I was like, why? And you're like, and then you gave me like that little bit of JD attitude. You're like, well, how else am I going to find the mistakes? And I was like, you know what? He's right. However, the technique I showed you, which is a technique that was showed to me, how quick did I do a very long video?
You got it done in, let's say, maybe half an hour.
Half an hour easily.
Well, that's mainly because the video is 20 minutes. So then it was 10 minutes of doing all the stuff that you have to do on top of the length.
Yeah.
So 30 minutes, I'd give or take.
And I flew through it. And
you did. You had wings, I saw.
Those are some of the techniques I had told you about in the past. But again, I let you tell me how to do it, because to learn something truthfully, you have to be able to teach it. And the way you taught me would have made me, well, it's not that it's wrong. It's just your way is working harder. And in that sense, if I had taken that direction, I would have went back in my training to do it your way. And I have learned how to do it correctly, or at least the way I do it correctly, to show you how to do it, because you like to do things quickly, except for lovemaking. I heard otherwise. You like to take your time. You're reaching for a good ratio.
Listen, you just have to show them that you care.
Yeah. Then why do you come? That's about you, not them. All right. Yeah. See, now you're thinking. You're like, oh, I guess it is. Yeah, because what about them? Well, they obviously come more than you do, but because they're multi-orgasmic, because you work really hard at that. Anyway, so in that situation with you working on a thing, I feel you work harder, and you were teaching me how to work harder, whereas I showed you really quickly how to be more productive, how to utilize the tools, which is between the script, between you're looking for certain things in the audio, you already have the template set up, so there's a lot involved, and
it definitely made it a lot quicker.
Yeah, but that's just an example.
Well, that's also you having a lot more editing practice under your belt than I do.
And wouldn't you say that if I gave you the advice that I have given you in the past, that years of advice would make sense?
Yes.
But a lot of times I'll come over and I'll be like, what are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm cutting out the dead space. And I'm like, okay. But you're cutting out the narrative, or you're cutting,
You're cutting out the body language or something that was going on that could have been part of the actual, entertaining aspect of what was going on visually.
Exactly.
Like all my wonderful hand movements.
That was our hand movement dance music.
You'll see it in the video.
But again, I've learned to work productively because I'm willing to work productively, because in my mind, and also when I set goals, I always tell people it's not about finishing things, it's about starting things. The more things you can start and consistently work on, the more you'll get done over time. Whereas some people focus on just getting a thing done, and now they're losing all that opportune time. They're not being productive. They're just working hard. And in turn, why write the scripts? Why put time into the scripts? Well, the scripts help us organize it. Because if you watched it, I flubbed up a couple times, but it wasn't like I was messing up in a way where it's like, well, what am I even talking about? How do you keep the narrative? It wasn't like I had to keep listening to it in this situation.
Well, having the script definitely helps, because you have something to follow, and then when you do see that there is a mess up, you can just make sure that it correlates to the script that you're keeping as a reference to the side. Exactly.
And you can improv on a script, because at least it's in the movement of the script, and you're looking for the beginning and the end of this. Anyway.
Yeah. Looking for your cues.
Yeah. Now with be willing to be productive, this brings us to setting goals. You're responsible for your goal breaking. A lot of people, they work hard towards something, but they don't necessarily know what it is they're working towards process wise. Again, an actor might be like, I want to send out 30 auditions. And
it's a lot of auditions.
It's a lot of auditions. So their goal is like, I'll just do 30 auditions, right? But maybe setting different goals will lead to auditions. But what they're doing is they're just submitting. If I submit the 30 auditions, right now, you got to set a real goal though to be productive. Why don't I do 4 auditions a day, or even 5 auditions a day? And look at that, I did my 30 in a week, whatever, right? But on top of it, how else can I get auditions? You know, if it's I should submit to auditions, now you're not thinking of how to get other auditions. Well, how do you get other auditions? Start networking, building, cultivating relationships. Get involved with managers. Get involved with agents. Yeah, but they don't represent me. It doesn't mean you can't become friends with them. It doesn't mean that you can't become friends with other producers and writers and directors. Oh, but I don't know any producer, writer, directors. Yes, you do. No, I don't. No, you don't know any famous or successful celebrity writers, directors, and producers. But if you're an actor, there's no way that you don't know another writer, director, or producer. And if you don't know, it explains why you're not going anywhere with your career, because you should be surrounding yourself with writers, directors, and producers.
People within your field of interest.
People within your field of interest.
I think we've often touched on the fact that a lot of artists tend to have a really big ego, and they're like, I'm amazing, awesome, and unique, and like there's that attitude. But I feel like we don't really touch on the fact that sometimes people just have a feeling that those gatekeepers, those writers, directors, producers, casting directors, people who have the ability to say yes and provide opportunity, they don't, some people might not necessarily feel that they have the right or the ability to even just approach those people and begin to build that relationship.
There's a big reason for that. They're going after top-notch people. Like if you went to Bruckheimer, I don't even think you would ever get to him, right? But if you went to someone who's starting out as a producer, you're probably more likely to get in touch with them. Why? Because they're trying to grow their career too. That's the problem with a lot of people in this industry. A band might think, I got to get Roadrunner to sign me, or I got to get Atlantic Records to sign me. It's like, well, how about you work on proving yourself so they come to you? And if you want to really get signed to a label, why don't you try to get signed to a 2-year deal to a nobody label? Just to get signed, if that's what your goal is. But if you really want to get signed, there's a process. You can't just wait to get signed and be like, I'm signed now. Everything's good. My career is going to be good. We're going to be making money. We're going to blah, 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 right? You're not setting goals. There's a dream. If we get signed by Atlantic Avenue, all our problems are
Atlantic Records.
What is it?
You said Atlantic Avenue.
Yeah. If we can't get to Atlantic Avenue on Monopoly's board, yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Hey, get off at Atlantic. Transfer.
All aboard. Goals for a situation like that should be smaller, because if you set goals, especially smaller, SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely goals, you're achieving things greater.
Can we get stickers that say SMART goals?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll spell it though, DART goals, and see if anyone notices.
I like where this is going.
Yeah. It has a point because it's a dart.
Check, please.
I see your circle as encompass my check. So your SMART goals should definitely be set to motivate you. As you're accomplishing smaller goals, you're leading to a greater goal. The only issue is people should also represent their larger goals as something of common sense. I want to win an Oscar is not that's like, put that on the back burner. That's my 3 or 5 or 7 or 10 year goal.
That's not the right out the gate goal.
Yeah. However, you could use that goal, that like long-term goal, to say, well, how would I reach that? What do I need to do to get into that situation? You got to find a good script, a great director, and and you got to be in that world. So how do you get in that world? Now you're breaking it down. All right, I got to get into that world. Martin Scorsese is not going to cast me. I don't know him, but
you're not in his circle.
I'm not in his circle. And I'm the greatest actor in the world. All right. Well, now you got to find this ain't me. Is that me? No, I don't know what that is. Anyway, you got to find a casting director. All right. But the casting director for films like Scorsese are not going to come to you. They're not going to be on a submit. You're not going to find that on Actors Access. There's no way.
Yeah, no, a Scorsese level person, if you're getting a main role, that's going to come through a relationship. So going, hey, I'm going to work with my buddy.
Yeah, that's it. Leonardo DiCaprio did not audition for The Departed. There's no way that happened. He didn't audition for Wolf of Wall Street.
He just went, hey, Leo. Yeah,
you want to be in this? Yeah. Sure, no problem.
Give me all the Quaaludes.
Yeah, give me all.
Oh my God. One of my favorite video memes is that scene from Wolf of Wall Street where like Leo is like screaming into the microphone, but it's just like Meshuggah.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
That actually didn't happen in real life.
Oh, that scene.
Yeah, he walked away. He didn't stay.
Oh.
That was some, one of the funniest pieces in that movie, though, is when he's like, "I can't believe I didn't hit anything." That his car's destroyed because he was so high.
Oh God,
I can't believe I didn't hit anything.
That movie was so good.
I was expecting that too, but it was still so funny to just be like, oh,
The delivery was just perfect.
yeah. But going back to the set goals. All right, so you got to be willing to be productive, and to be the most productive, you have to set your goals, and those goals should be a multitude of smaller, smart goals leading to a larger idea, and you have to break down those goals in a sense for it to be good advice. Set goals is not really good advice. That's like, you want to eat, you should cook. Like
that's a great idea.
But that's not good advice, though. Like,
No.
what should I cook? How should I cook it? What kind of food should I have? If I just eat a cookie, if I just warm a cookie up, is that enough? Cookies.
I wonder what would happen if we like slightly heated up like Oreos in like a toaster.
It would be happiness.
I think I know what we're doing after this.
Oh yeah. Where are we gonna find a horse? Well, that's great, Brain, but where are we going to find a horse?
We're going to find a tattoo parlor open this time of night.
This time of night. Do you know what I'm thinking? No, I can't do it. I haven't listened to that cartoon in a long time.
Oh, man. I started watching the reboot.
Oh, did you? Is it good?
I love all of the meta things that Pinky keeps mentioning, like in the first couple of episodes, of the fact that like Brain's actually just like an emotionally and physically abusive like person. Brain just basically just goes, "Shut up," and smacks him.
That's funny. These are some good advice, but we're going a little deeper into what their purpose is. Obviously you want to be productive, but you want to set those goals to be productive.
Yeah, a lot of the advice that I think people end up giving is just like the tip of the iceberg and doesn't really give any real direction.
Yeah, that's what she proclaimeth.
Oh.
You also should get a mentor. Now, a mentor doesn't necessarily mean somebody that sits with you and says, "Hey, I'm your mentor. I'm going to help you out." A mentor could just be somebody you surround yourself, because remember, you want to have a circle of influence, people that you surround yourself with. If you want to be successful, be around successful people, and these people are your mentors through their action. They inspire you. They motivate you to have better habits. They,
But you said when you were younger, you ended up having mentors. You didn't quite realize were your mentors right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, like my grandfathers, or an uncle, or somebody I worked with.
Because a lot of your family just like ran businesses, open businesses, and like that was a thing. Yeah. So you said that you pretty much just had that business mindset just basically right out the gate, because like you were being taught that that way of thinking.
Well, because in my head I was like, oh, you can open a business, and I was like, I'm eventually going to open a business when I get older. And people were like, you can't just open a business. And I was like,
my family's been doing it forever.
I have family where I'm like, how did they open a business? And you're like, it's that easy. Yeah, I have an uncle who's a carpenter, and
that means he carpents.
Yeah, he puts carpets in. No, he does cabinets and horses. No, so he's a carpenter, and he would literally go get a job. Like he'd go and book a carpentry gig.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be like, you want me to redo your kitchen? And they'd be like, yeah. And he goes, all right, it's gonna be $30,000, because he would go to like big, houses.
Yeah.
All right. And he did that because he had relationships. Everybody knew him, right? And he'd be like, I need $15,000 up front, so I could get materials.
Makes sense.
Right. And then he'd take that 15 grand, go open up a shop. And then he'd get another gig, and he'd use that gig to pay for the first gig. And eventually he would catch up to himself. And then he was, but everyone says you need money. It's like, you don't need money. You need to find money.
You need enough money, like $130 to register yourself as an S corp.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much done.
At
least that's for the state of New York.
Now, I don't agree with the way he does it. Like, obviously he's shown me that if you want to do something, you can make it happen. Like there's ways around it, and people make excuses not to do things. They'll be like, well, I don't have the money. And he's like, well, I can get money. That's not a problem. I believe you should have 18 months of security, like capital in the back, or at least be working towards that. In his situation, he could have easily got a job as a carpenter for another company and just worked his way up to having that kind of resources. But
and also started building relationships within that world as well.
Yeah, but he's been working in the world since he was like 12 with my grandfather, because he had a carpentry shop. So you gotta
So basically, entertainers specifically need to think of
Be
themselves,
yeah,
by carpeting their way into the entertainment industry. They have to think of themselves as a carpenter would think of themselves, whereas they are basically a private contractor being hired for a specific gig.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like, to be a successful actor, you need to be in that world, and you don't necessarily have to be an actor to start out your journey to be a successful actor.
Like Harrison Ford,
who was indeed a carpenter. You know, and the idea, though, is a lot of people, they'll get out of school and they go, well, my dream is I want to be a famous director, so I'm just going to try to be a director. And all they do is work on trying to be a director, trying to get hired as a director, trying to get money to do their own films. And what they're realizing, what they're not doing is literally working towards a career. All they're doing is things. They're working hard at things. I'm just going to meet people to be a director. No one wants to work with you because they don't know who you are. Yeah, but I'm not going to do anything else other than direct. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start getting money from people. I'm going to do my own films. I'm going to do a short, then I'm going to do a feature, and I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Right?
But that's just, at that point, it's them just going, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me.
That's right.
It's not showing that they can work together as a team for other people. And that's, you know, entertainment, like any other industry, you need to be able to work with people.
You know, not only that, but if you're a director, quote unquote, and you think, well, I'm only going to be a director, and you want to join the directors union, the first thing you have to do is work as like an AD, like a second AD or something. There might actually be a position lower than that, and you have to earn X amount of hours. So you're running around going, I'm going to be a director. You're going to hire me. I'm a director. But to get into the union,
you have to do all the other stuff first.
You need hours doing other things because you have to earn your right to be a director. However, there are certain stipulations. If you film certain kind of films, like I believe, like as a writer, I can go through the process, or if I do X amount of scripts that are hired by a studio, I get points for those, and I could get it, you know. Gotcha. But anyway, so get a mentor, not necessarily by seeking out someone and saying, hey, will you mentor me? But find people in your circle that you can build and cultivate relationships with.
So you don't need to necessarily go find a Master Yoda. You can just get into that realm, and
you can just go to the theater. Yeah.
I mean, that totally works. I went to this theater one time and met this guy named Thomas who was like, oh, you guys are putzes.
Tell him how long you had your arms and legs crossed when you would come to class.
I don't remember, but it was definitely a long time. Yeah. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then, tried doing one thing. Damn it, he's right.
My favorite is when you were like, well, how else are you going to make money if you don't have CDs?
You listed everything. I was like, oh, I never even thought of that.
Well, you could do those things.
What's really funny is that, following all of your teachings, I got more done in 6 months than I had done in like 6 years. And then being a tough gong, most of your lessons got beaten into my head within the first month of me being there. I'm like, oh, he was right literally about everything.
Yeah, because I don't make this stuff up. However, there are people out there that I have helped and they've become successful, but then their careers started teetering and now they're just doing things, and they have completely forgotten about me, which is fine.
I mean, listen, people, if people are going to be selfish, it is not worth anyone's time to deal with that, because people who are selfish are toxic.
Well, on my end, I have to ignore them, but on their end, they're breaking one of the rules to success, which we'll get into on this list. But moving on to something else, surround yourself with successful people. That's in addition to the mentor life. Now, what's the difference is your circle of influence should be people that influence you. They help you with your habit building, et cetera, et cetera. You just kind of naturally, oh, they're doing these things. Maybe I should, like you learn from their actions, their truth in action.
And by influence, we mean that I totally just had to.
They influence you by.
I think I just had
by inspiring you to change your habits.
Yeah, not necessarily that they give you opportunities.
Yeah, though they could, but that's not the point of it.
Yeah, the point is that you pick up their habits. This way, you can be a better person. You can be successful, and you can be influential in your own life.
And surround yourself with successful people is just a step up to that. Now you're not just focusing on one or two people that you're learning from. It's just being around those kind of people. And again, it helps elevate your world. If you're around successful actors, and you don't have to be around a James Franco. It just means actors that are growing and influential in their own careers, that are making things happen. Be around them, because it's going to lead you down a good path. But more importantly, of all these things we've said, you need to set a routine. That's a tip for success. Set
a routine. And then remember, be willing to work hard, or most likely, as I say, be productive, to set your goals, get a mentor, surround yourself by successful people, and set a routine so you can organize your time. Because management of time, money, and people will always give control back to you. It'll allow you to say yes because you want to, not because you have to pay bills. Because the moment you say yes to pay a bill, you're no longer in control. Yeah. So, did you ever feel you had routines? And do you think, how did you think those routines were working against you?
Before I met you,
I was a chronic masturbator.
I mean, that's how I fall asleep every night. That's how I wake up every morning.
That's a good routine.
And, keep myself, occupied while going to the bathroom.
Accapato.
It's really weird and difficult to masturbate and pee at the same time. Just fun fact. But my routines before meeting you basically consisted of going to school and then going to work and then working on music, just the art part, at night or on the weekends. Yeah. And that worked against me because I put a lot of focus on two things that I did not want to be doing. Yeah. I went to college because it was advised to me by who I thought were mentors and people that I looked up to, even people that I still do look up to. Advised that I would go and educate myself at a school and get that little piece of paper. And I never ended up. I didn't go for anything that I really wanted to be going for. And so I put a lot of time into that. So the routine was to, study, do homework, go to class, and then also going to a job that had nothing to do with my field of interest, every day.
Yeah, but even you're going home to work on music, the sense, sometimes I'll talk to clients that are bands, like especially back in the day, and they always say, well, we have band practice. And I was like, all right, but how often do you guys get together? Well, not, the only time we all see each other is during band practice. Well, why don't you make the first hour business? No, we got to work on these songs. We got a show coming up in 3 weeks. All right. And then those bands break up. Those bands never go anywhere. The bands end up having day jobs for the rest of their lives, But they've been together for, I've seen bands that have been together for like 10 or 15 or even 20 years at this point. They're signed to like crap labels, and they still have day jobs, survival jobs, and they still focus on the same things, and that's why they're not going anywhere.
Or even some that are signed to like decent labels, but because they don't run themselves, like a business, they're on a decent label, but they don't really have the backing that they could have, and they're not running themselves to the point where they don't need that day job.
Yeah, a label's not going to invest in you if you're not really putting the effort in, and not in the sense of working hard, but like you're not doing social media correctly, they're going to notice. You're not going out and doing your interviews and reviews, they're going to notice. You're not doing meet and greets, they're going to notice. You're not expanding to sponsorships, they're going to notice. You're not expanding your field of interest, they're going to notice.
Yeah, and that's something that bands don't realize. It's
artists too, just musical artists.
Artists. It's the fact that just because you get signed to a label doesn't mean that they're going to give you these opportunities. They're not going to give you these all these chances. You still have to go out and make these relationships. You have to go out and bring those opportunities to you. Like one of the big things that a label has is like they have these relationships that they've built that they can potentially help you out with, and they have the ability to give you that financial backing. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you don't do your job, it's why are they gonna continue to do things for you?
They're not gonna reward your passion if you don't do your job. And I have a buddy who basically raises artists. He takes them under their wing.
For a second, I thought you were going to say raises cattle. Yeah, and I'm kind of slightly disappointed that you didn't.
Well, he does raise cattle in a sense, because he moves them. Anyway,
behooving of him.
Behooving. Spotty at best.
Listen, I tried milking that joke too much.
Hey, listen. Anyway. What he does though is he helps these artists kind of like understand the business. He's always mentoring to be business savvy, and before they even start recording, he's like, this is how it works, let me introduce you to people. Then he starts getting them on, like, doing a line here or a chorus there or a verse here or whatever, and eventually they get to work up to their way where they can do their own, maybe single, not even a full album or even an EP. Anyway, but once the thing is, they have to say yes to everything because they're under his tutelage. If he goes, you got to go do this interview, you have to go do that interview. If he says you got to come to the studio for this thing, you got to go to that studio. Oh no, I'm hanging out. No, you're not. Your job right now is to be available. Your job is to say yes to everything because you're growing your career. But moving on, this brings me to something else. You have to regularly check in with yourself and say, am I where I want to be? Am I doing the things I should be doing? Am I doing too much? So the triangle of life, we talk about this. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you have to say to yourself, where, if I feel like my career is going backwards or I stopped, you look at your triangle of life. You go, minus COVID is anything on there going? And I do that often, and you could literally just look through your 3 needs of success, your 3 needs of longevity, your 3 needs of purpose, and of course the 8 assets of life. And you say, am I treating my life like a business? And you just map it out and you say yay or nay. You got to check in on yourself once in a while. That's, you can't just assume you're doing it right.
That's why having SMART goals and having a business plan helps, because if, like you said, if you do feel like you are stagnant, you have a reference point to go and check and not just kind of wing it.
Oh, a business plan, even for an entertainer, is a great thing because you're looking at your 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10-year goals. Plus, you're looking about how to attack those goals, how to market properly, how to network properly. What am I looking to do? And that business plan is ultimately going to tell you yay or nay in that solution finding. Am I doing these things? Have I reached my date goals? No. All right, I have to change something up. But more importantly, you got to always keep improving yourself. You should always be learning. It's not just important to be aware of what you have to do. It's important to understand what other people have to do. It's important to be conscious of the process. I want to be a successful musician or a successful actor or a successful director or a successful anything. What is the process? And you have to improve yourself to know that process. Of course, we just talked about this the other day. Warren Buffett says, never invest in something you don't know. So why would you invest time and money into yourself, into a career that you know nothing about other than the end results? Well, I want to act on the screen or on a stage, or I want to play music on stage, or I want to be a comedian or a writer. That's the end result. But you don't know enough about the process to get there. So why are you going to invest this time and money? If you're,
I think something that we were looking up earlier this morning, or early this afternoon, I don't know, lost track of time, was the fact that there is a lot of professional advice. There's a lot of professional outlets that give, what we see is, incorrect advice. A lot of people still end up getting misdirected.
Oh yeah, all the time. And we are going to go over some bad advice towards the end of the show. But you're right, because they're looking for guidance. And again, if you don't look for guidance or are being guided, you only know what you know based on what you know, right? I mean, you don't research, you don't go anywhere further than whatever your brain is going. This is how I'll be successful. Whereas if you look to other people, you got to go, well, who are they? Where are they at? If you're looking at someone who's at the same level as you, doing the same thing you're doing or less, and they're giving you advice, how can you even pay attention to that? There's no value in it.
Or just even people who have, found like, a lot of success and are at the very top. Some of them still even give incorrect.
They give bad advice for a few reasons. One, they don't want to deal with it. 2, you haven't earned yourself. I've seen professional comedians turn to somebody and say, just get on stage and write. That's it. Meanwhile, they don't do that. They get on stage and write because their efforts have allowed them to do that. But the way they become successful is there's a lot more involved. There's networking and marketing and building and cultivating and doing all these other things, organizing their money. Everyone's always like, well, Jerry Seinfeld's, makes $50 million a year.
That guy is very business savvy and has earned that $50 million a year.
No, he's very smart with that. But on the other hand, there are people that get $250 million for sports, and they are broke by the time they're end their career because they don't understand money management. And someone once said,
spend $250 million a
cars,
year?
Houses, friends, vacations.
Are they like buying friends? Like how does that work?
No, friends go, I need money. They go, yeah, absolutely. But the other day I posted something. What is the cheat code to succeed in life? And I said money management. And someone laughed at me and said, this is the reason people don't. they're miscommunicating the truth. It's not about money management. We need more money. And it's like, no, more money with bad money management is the same reason that, what is it, 80% of lotto winners all go broke and the rest of them just kind of like end up back where they were. Very rarely do lotto winners maintain their wealth because they don't have money management.
They're just like, oh, money, I can just spend it. And they're like, oh, wait, I probably should have saved a bunch of this or like managed it properly.
It's not even like there's a certain point, well, I need this much money to survive. You might be living above your means. In some cases, there's also ways that you can help yourself kind of get through those financial situations. But money is a difficult subject to talk about because you're either ready for a financial IQ or you're ready to just continue to blame society or circumstance or situation, but like I said, even a majority of the millionaires I know, they started out poor, and some of the greatest successful companies were poor people.
Yeah, I mean, like, was it Jeff Bezos over at Amazon? Wasn't he like basically in an office with like a spray painted sign that said Amazon?
Well, he lived in his office. Elon Musk lived in his office.
Him and his brother, and then you have Steve Jobs and Wozniak. Basically,
well, Jobs grew up with a wealthy family, but but he was adopted, so people were like, "Oh, it was dumb," but he was adopted, so there's a circumstance. But he did grow up in a pretty wealthy household.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with his story. But anyway, moving on. Choose your occupation wisely. That's some good advice. Like you say, you want to be a musician. Like I thought I wanted to be a musician, and I learned that I didn't want to be a musician. I wanted to play music. There's a big difference.
Yes, because as we've established, musicians are not successful.
Yeah, at all. You will never find a successful musician. You will find successful musicians who play music.
No, you'll find successful
people.
You'll find successful business people that play music.
Correct. Yeah, like I was always educated to kind of like, hey, the things you do are great, but that's not how you're going to make money. And I go, that's ridiculous. So I want to make money playing music.
Yeah, so like Testament are musicians, whereas Metallica are business people who play music.
Yeah, agreed. And I knew bands personally that were quote unquote super successful and everyone knew who they were and they were selling albums, but yet they still A, had working survival jobs, and B, weren't getting paid more than $1,000 a show, which is
insane because this is also what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Imagine inflation has gone up.
It definitely did. There was this band, I don't want to name them, Dying Fetus, that were touring for 3 months, and I knew the singer through the girl who was dating him was our singer for a little bit. Anyway, they basically toured for 3 months, and then he was like, he was broke. He's broke, and he's like sleeping on our couch. After the tour was over, he's just staying on the couch because he had no place to live. Right, and he's like, "Oh, I got to go get some money from the band," and he goes there to get $900 for the merch money that he earned for 3 months of touring. I don't know about you, but if someone was paying me $300 a month to play music, I would stop playing music. That's not the way to do it. And this guy is in a band that still exists. Well, he's not in the band anymore, but the band still exists.
Yeah, no, Dying Fetus has been around for forever.
Yeah,
it's something that's crazy that I personally have come across, especially within like the metal scene, is that it seems faux pas almost to think of running a band like a business. Even those who like kind of do.
Yeah.
It's just like having a conversation where it's just like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want artistically. Just you have to think about like the business aspect. It's not touring and music that's going to bring you success. It's how you run the business. Like even bringing that up as like an idea, like people are just like, "You're crazy. Why would it? That doesn't make any sense."
And usually their excuse is, "Well, I want it to be fun. I don't want to be a job."
Yeah, or even the fact that I'm sure you've heard this too. You've heard pretty much everything at this point. Is that like, oh, it's heavy metal, it's death metal. No one's gonna like it. So we're just gonna focus on doing what we want to do artistically, and if people like it, then we like it. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter. It's like whatever the business stands for, whatever the brand is, that's what people are going to connect to. I mean, personally, like I do not like reggae at all. I can't stand it. I think it's extremely boring. But I think Bob Marley is probably one of my like. Sorry, we had an interruption with the dogs. Bob Marley is one of my business role models, and I think he's an amazing example of literally everything you've ever taught me. So, like, I love Bob Marley as a person and like what he stands for, but I cannot get into the music.
It has nothing to do with his music, though.
I know that's what I'm. That's the point I'm making.
You were raised not to like reggae.
I mean,
because that's how branding works. That's how marketing works. Your third-party introduction to reggae was probably aggravated by the idea that rap is stupid. So rap, reggae, that kind of culture. I'm sure you don't like rap at all.
I mean, there's some stuff that I like, but not really.
You're not but you wouldn't you wouldn't be like someone that's like, I listen to rap, right? And the reason is because you grew up around a culture, a group of people that said rap was stupid. It's the same thing with country. Do you listen to country on repeat?
No.
Why not?
I'm guessing it's because I was brought up in that.
You were brought up. That's right. And people in the South who love country usually hate metal, except for people who love metal, and then they hate country because they've grown around.
Except for bands like Pantera, where they're just like, oh,
well, they're from Texas.
They are.
That's not really the South.
No, Phil's from Louisiana, isn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't the original singer from Pantera, though.
He was not. No. Glamterra. Diamond Daryl.
Perry, go ahead.
What's going on?
Go get some water. Go get some water.
Oh, no, Dad, there's a thing.
I'm scared to go around it.
Oh, I'll put him. But yeah.
But choose. Let's go back to choose your occupation wisely.
Yeah.
Know what it is you want to do. A lot of people, they have this idea. I want to act, or I want to be a comedian, or I want to be a writer or a musician, and they don't realize what their actual occupation is. They think being an actor, my job is to act, and that's not your job. That's the reward for doing your job. So be aware of it, and that trained me to go, I want to be a producer so I can do the things I like doing, like acting or writing.
Or music.
Have you figured out what you want to do, Doug?
No.
Pierre, go get your water. Go ahead. Go in the kitchen. You got this.
I'm afraid not.
Go that way. Go around. He's in. Poor dog. He's got a dog brain.
He's dropped on his head once.
He was never dropped. Well, he fell down the stairs, but that was because of a girl. We're not gonna
bring that up.
Yeah, we're not gonna bring that redhead up. No one will know. I've dated several redheads.
This is true.
Yeah.
Ugh, Doug, what are you doing?
But it happened in Brooklyn. Anyway, but I knew that I didn't want to be a musician. And eventually I realized I didn't want to be an actor, a comedian, or a writer. Those are things I wanted to do in my life. So I decided to make sure that my occupation was at the top, a business owner that had the freedom and opportunity to do those things. And yes, I make money with that stuff, but it's only because my business is involved in that industry.
It rewards you to be able to afford to do all those things, and also opportunity to get a financial compensation to do the things that you love doing.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Doug?
He wants to go out.
Well,
too late.
Should have gone.
No. Go lay down. You got a couple more minutes. Go lay down. Go lay shut.
He speaks Russian, by the way. Russian, German, Italian.
Period. You got it.
Apparently English.
That's right. He does speak a little English. Period. You got to go lay shut. All right, where are we? Let's get through this.
Oh yeah.
So I can take care of this dog.
Oh. Hi,
go
everybody.
lay down. Go lay shut. I'll get to you in a minute. You went out literally right before we started.
You did.
All right. Don't let others tell you what's best for you. This advice is good and bad. Don't let others tell you what's best for you. Sometimes we're blind to what's best for ourselves. Like, for example, if you meet a mentor and they go, stop focusing on just trying to do shows. You should focus on the business end. They're telling you what's best for you, and you should acknowledge that. But then there's other things. If you're happy doing something, then no advice is going to change it. If you like just playing shows, but even in your heart, you're like, I wish I could be a successful musician, but you love playing shows, keep doing the shows. You're a hobbyist. it makes you happy, just do what you got to do. Because if you're not happy, that's the other thing. Like do what you love doing, because you have to do it every day. That doesn't mean acting. That doesn't mean playing on stage. There's a lot involved, like
to get you to that point before you can do that.
You know, and that's where the choose your occupation wisely, and also don't listen to people. You know, you're your best advice. So if you love what you do, just do it. Who cares? Like,
I think that all that more or less is supposed to relate to, like, if you want to choose, like, you know, you want to be an entertainer, you know, some capacity.
Yeah.
You know, if someone says you get a day job or have a plan B, I think that means, like, don't listen to that. If, like, you know, you want to do this, just make sure you do your research and you do it properly.
Well, yeah, you got to do what you got to do properly, and you know, focus on what makes you happy, and obviously take every advice. I listen to all advice. I just don't always assimilate it into my system until I research it. Additionally, though, you know, you have to measure your own success with that. You have to define what your success is, and then focus on your success, not others. And what that means is, it does not mean ignore other people and like it's your success or, you know, everyone's competition. It's not that. What it means is, when you start comparing yourself to other people's success, they're not you. They're not on your journey. They're not on your path. They may be doing similar things to you, but they have variables that are basically isolating them from being you, which is they're not you. They grew up differently. Their history leading up to that moment when you met them is different than yours, and their history leading forward is going to be different. Know what you want to define as success. I like to define success as making a living within your field of interest. A living is not a lifestyle. A living is an organized living within your means of an organized overhead. That's not about longevity or anything. That's just becoming successful. But know what it is, so you know what you're heading towards. And then once you're reaching certain points, if someone else is quote unquote further than you in your mind, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Focus on what your successes are and where you're going, because you'll get further that way.
There's a good example that I heard of a couple of years ago. You know, the Can You Hear Me Now guy?
What?
Huh? Yeah. You know, he started off with Verizon. He just, you know, basically did that whole string of commercials, whatever. Yeah. But he's come out in interviews basically saying that he, for the longest time, even while he was doing those commercials, felt very depressed and felt like his career wasn't going anywhere and whatnot. But like as he grew, as he kept doing that, he kept getting more and more popular, and people liked the character and whatnot. Yeah. And he was able to eventually move over to Sprint, and he kept the IP because like he was that guy.
Yeah.
And you know, he was making a very good living, and he was saying in the interview that eventually he realized, wait a second, I have reached success because I am in entertainment. I'm making a living doing what I want to do. And he had control over himself. He had control over the IP. He had the freedom to move from like one thing to another. And you know, it wasn't the path that he originally had wanted to go down. And that's what he was basically focusing on. And that goes back to what you were saying. Don't use other people's measurement of success, you know, for yourself, because everyone has their own path.
Yeah, and you know, as long as you're doing something in your field, you're doing great. And if you have control within your field, you're doing, like, he has control. He has the ability to do what he wants. Mm-hmm. That's great. He's making a living. You just have to. You have to measure your own success. With that said, though, don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of people that I know personally and just see all over the place, they want to achieve their goals on their own. They want to be the ones that say, I got myself here. I'm the one who has made it, and I had nobody help me. And that to me is insane.
I agree.
You got to ask for help. You also have to help others. It's a double-sided coin. You got to help people, and people should be you should be willing to ask for help. You're not a super person. You can't do everything.
No man an island, as they say.
No man or woman is an island. However, I have met an island that was not a man.
Funny story.
Yeah,
actually.
it was basically an inanimate object
made of sand and dirt and soil.
Yeah,
and a couple of trees.
Its water broke. That's how it got surrounded by ocean.
Long
story short,
a couple of coconuts.
You have to ask for help, you know, and but again, if you build your circle of influence, you get to the point where you can ask for help. It's okay. It doesn't devalue you. In fact, by asking for help, you're acknowledging something within yourself, and therefore you're showing growth. You have to take responsibility. I cannot do this. I need help. That's important to your success.
And people who are potential mentors, see that and they respect that, and like, oh, this person wants to learn.
Oh yeah. I know that I've taken many people under my wing where I just see them.
When did you get wings?
Thursday, where I see them being willing to do certain things, or if I see you helping others, I want to help you. That's really just my big thing. But then I see you not helping others, and I see you being egotistical or being whatever, and I just step back. I'm not interested in helping you. And you come to me, I'm cordial and nice, but I can't give you my time because that person for some reason went to a different level, or they're helping the wrong people. Which brings me to the next point. Always acknowledge people who have helped you. That's important. You're going up on a career that you're eventually going to go down on. There's no doubt in my mind that even Frank Sinatra at his highest point never reached that a second time. He got to that point where he was the Frank Sinatra, and then he just went down the ladder. He still had power, sway, influence, but there was a certain point he was not Frank Sinatra. You know what I'm saying? Like, even the greatest of our time, Marlon Brando.
Oh, yeah.
He fell down the ladder, and he needed help. Mel Gibson, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Got help from Mel Gibson when no one would cast him. And Mel Gibson cast him in a movie that Mel Gibson was supposed to be the lead in. And he was like, I'm going to give you this shot. We're going to help you out. And you gotta realize falling down that hill once you're on top is going to be pretty tough, unless, of course, you maintain acknowledgement of those who helped you get up the ladder, who helped you up that great big hill.
People trip. People fall down from time to time. Not everyone has a career that's always perfect and ideal.
Yeah.
And that's something that...
Except for Imperial.
Well, he's, the archangel of...
Genocide. No, but I believe in this very much. I acknowledge all those who have ever helped me, and I kind of get a little upset when others don't acknowledge the stuff that I've done to help them, and they become like this really...
And they shun you?
They shun me, or they just kind of, they give me... But there are some people that aren't doing anything with their career, and they still speak highly of me, and they go, you did a lot for me, and and I don't need to know that, but I do know that it's happening. Like, people tell me, or the person is like, hey, someone's saying something, and it's interesting. I just know that there are certain people that every time I get opportunities, they're on my list. And then there's people that want to be on my list that only interact with me when they see those opportunities happening because I'm public about it. And I'm like, well, I obviously don't want you a part of this, but I have to be nice about it.
You can give them busy work.
Yeah.
And if they do it, great. If they don't do it, whatever.
Yeah, we need a janitor. What else we got? Own your mistakes. This is something JD needs to learn how to do. We talk about this often. You don't earn. I tell you all the time. I go, if you just say you don't know, or you just say I messed up, there's nothing. There's not. All right, great. Let's move on. But when you're when you're a person,
don't make excuses.
Yeah, don't do it. Excuses. I hate excuses. Even if you broke, like, not you, but anybody. Like if let's say you broke a dish. And I go, what happened to the dish?
Why do I keep getting the chipped ones?
Why do you get the
They're all chipped.
Let's say you broke it. And I'm like, oh, what happened to the dish? And you're like, I don't know. I wasn't near it. Right. And then I find out that you broke it. Now you're a liar. And also you're an idiot. Right. But if you're like, I broke it. Even if you broke and you come out and you go, listen, I broke a dish. I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, I really want to be like, you broke a dish. Oh, my God.
Did you cut yourself? No. Okay.
I wouldn't even ask that.
Oh, wow.
Because I know you didn't cut yourself because that wasn't the first thing you said. If you came out bleeding on the floor and you go, I cut myself, I'd be like, oh my God, what happened? I broke a dish. Well, let's get you to the hospital after you buy me a new dish.
Can we do the dish afterwards? No. Amazon right now.
How dare you break my dish and put blood all over it?
There's so much blood loss.
Additionally, you should also be your own cheerleader. Not only should
with
you
the pom-poms?
You should take responsibility for yourself and accept that you make mistakes and own them, but also you should cheer yourself on. No one else is going to be your cheerleader. Other people might cheer you on, but no one's going to be your cheerleader. You're the only person that's going to be there. That's always going to be rooting for you, unless it's because you're depressed or sad or dead.
Funny story.
Fun. The dog just farted.
Oh, I'm glad it's by you.
Oh my God. What else? Let's run through this. Don't beat yourself up. Yeah, I recommend not physically hitting yourself. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to physically beat yourself up.
Although it is implied, don't do that.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, please.
Bad
don't
for your
hit
health.
yourself. But don't beat yourself up. When you're failing and messing up, instead of beating yourself up thinking how horrible you're doing, just look at your triangle of life. What can you start working on? What can you put time into? Be seen, be present, get involved, talk to people, follow up.
Even during times like this where like we're kind of forced to not be around people a good chunk of the time, like we have the ability to reach out to one another thanks to the internet, our phones. We can have video chats. That text every now and again from someone you haven't heard from in a while definitely can lead to putting a smile on somebody's face.
That's right. Like if you want to reach out to JD, you just go to McElroy left here down. Also, something that keeps people from succeeding is they feel stuck. They go, if I leave this situation, I'm already in this situation. I can't leave it. They get like, let's say you're working a job within your field of interest, but you're not happy there. And you have this idea where you're like, well, I can't leave here because I put all this time into it. Be comfortable with change. Make sure you give yourself the right to make those changes. You're not stuck unless you feel stuck. You're allowed to start over. Some of the greatest people in the world that have succeeded have failed at great age and also succeeded at a great age, meaning they were in their 50s or 60s or 40s. Your age is not a determination of when you can start.
Like Alan Rickman didn't get his big break until what, 40 something?
He was 40. And it was because of a friend. And it was for Die Hard.
Yippee-ki-yay.
This is something that it sounds like I don't take the advice, but that's mostly because I'm usually in the teacher's position. But listen more than you speak.
I mean, you listen to me all day, and then you're just like, I don't know why I listen to you.
I'm always like, you want to talk about it? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, how long is this going to take? All right. So, but you should listen more than you speak. And ultimately what that means as a real advice giver, as a tip, is you're trying to be the dumbest person in the room. You're trying to learn the industry. If you say you want to be in a certain industry, the moment you say that, you are the least experienced person in that industry the moment you meet someone in that industry. Like if I was like, I want to be an actor, and I'm like 15 at my house, the moment I meet an actor, they are already more experienced in the acting industry than I am. I should be listening to them. Doesn't mean I should take all their advice.
You should listen, though.
Yeah, but I should listen. I should be paying attention to the people around me that are in that industry. This episode's not going to be that long this week, but I do want to get. We have a couple points of bad advice, so I'm gonna kind of run through them,
and then we can dissect them.
And then we can dissect. So there's master your craft to succeed. I hate that advice. It's terrible advice. People are competitive. Be the best in the room.
I also hate
that. Perform as much as possible.
I also hate that.
Have a plan B.
That is literally my least favorite one.
Yeah. I believe you should have a plan B if it's your plan A, an alternative to your plan A. Meaning,
how do I make plan A happen?
Yeah, how do I make plan A happen another way? Sometimes you have to spend to earn. I despise that. That is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life, especially as an investor. You never spend what you have. You spend what you've accumulated from other things.
Unless it's metaphorically talking about your time. Spend your time, but wisely. Because you have to spend time to build relationships.
Yeah, but that's not what it's talking about.
I know. That's what I said metaphorically.
Yeah. If you build it, they will come. I hate that. And of course, you're only as good as your last show. I hate that as well. Now, a couple of things. Master your craft to succeed. The reason this is terrible advice is because your skill level has nothing to do with success. It does have to do with longevity, but you don't have to be a master at your craft to be successful. So your journey to success can start now, instantly, right the second before you even take class 1. And while you're developing your relationships and your brand and getting involved in the industry at a level you're not going to be doing. Imagine you spent 10, 15 years mastering how to be a musician or an actor or a writer. And then you're like, well, in my mind, I've had 15 years, so I should be the lead actor and everything.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
No, you're going to find out the moment you go to somebody, they're going to be like, great, we have this one line for you. right? And you're like, oh, but I've spent 15 years mastering my craft.
Good. We just need to do this one line.
Yeah, great.
That's all we need.
We don't even know who you are. In fact, you know what? Your background now. And that's the mentality people are taught. Like, if I'm the best, I'm just going to get work. And that's not true.
No.
The best don't get the work. Because if that was the case,
music would have just gotten more technical and insane from classical music on, and we wouldn't have gotten punk rock.
Well, punk rock was great for what it was doing. It was throwing the music industry on it over because people were like, we don't care.
What I'm saying though is that like the level of proficiency in order to write, a classical piece, a symphony, as opposed to like the musical dexterity to play some punk rock. Like, it's easier to play punk rock than classical music. What is he doing?
I think Evie's home
already.
Maybe. But you're right. In a sense, I mean, I don't agree with the comparison because punk rock is still a technical genius that, classical is a genius, but
I'm saying the musical dexterity in order to like, there's more going on in a classical piece.
But that doesn't mean it's great.
I'm not saying.
Oh, all right.
No.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You don't need to be the best and understand it and have like all of the skills in order to be successful.
Well, I think the best way to say it is, if you ever, well, at least I'm on camera.
Hey, you're looking good.
Look at that. Look how nice I look. Here, go lay down. We're almost done, pup. No, you're not even in the camera. No, bring it in. Now turn it a little bit towards you. There you go. Perfect. That'll be perfect. Here, you got to go inside. Go inside, Boobala.
Don't give me that look.
Boobala. You know what? Go get him a treat. Get him a treat and tell him to go right now. Oh, yeah. Give him to him in the other. Don't knock stuff over. There you go. Look at that. See? This is why dogs will never rule the world. Good boy. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. The best way to say that, if you've ever listened to a song or watched a movie or read a book and you're like, this is crap, but they made money, it's just proving that your craft is not the reason they're successful. There's other variables.
Factors.
Yeah. When people tell you master your craft, do not allow that to be the reason you wait to start. Start now at the career you're interested in. You do not have to be doing the thing you want to do. You just need to be in that industry.
You need to be making those relationships. You need to be in that world.
You got to get in there. People are competing this is ridiculous when people are like, oh, everyone's competition. No. Like JD and I, if we were actors, people say we look alike, but we're not. He has a different personality than I do. And even if we were twins, we would have different personalities. And when you go into a room for an audition,
they're going to pick
your choices. The way you perform that piece with your realism. They're not looking for you to be a character. They're looking for you to do the lines. Additionally, if you're a comedian, if JD and I were doing the same jokes, there's no way him and I could do George Carlin jokes and they would be George Carlin humor.
No.
It just, no one.
Only George Carlin could be George Carlin. Yeah. Only Thomas Bellezza can be Thomas Bellezza.
Yeah. Now, you need to compete against somebody, and that's yourself. Always compete against yourself. Try to be better than you were yesterday, but don't try to be better than everyone else. They're not your competition. In fact, embrace people. Bring them into your circles. Mm-hmm. Work with them. Teams rise together faster than individuals, waits for someone to come rescue them.
Agreed.
Perform as much as possible. This one is ridiculous for a few reasons. If you have not earned the right to perform, you're performing for an empty room. If you don't believe so, then let me know how many people performed that came to your show before COVID. If you're not filling out a show, if you need to tell people one person at a time
to come to your show, you have not earned the right.
Yeah, if you're like, please buy this ticket. Hey, we have a show. We need to sell 50 tickets. If you're a comedian that goes, I can't perform without 5 to 10 people there. If you're a writer or whatever, if you need to get people to a performance, you really should not be performing. Mm-hmm. Perform when you've earned the right. Now, another thing is obviously just perform because you want to perform. That's a different thing. But if the advice is perform as much as possible
to find success,
it's bad advice.
It's terrible advice.
But if you just want to perform. Like I love performing. If I could, I perform every day. But if you're performing to succeed, it's bad advice.
When I was at Tough Gong, actually, one of the people there, I'm not going to say who exactly, actually gave me the advice that I should get a residency at one of the venues on the Sunset Strip. To which I was like, I don't think that really makes any sense, because why would I get the residency if nobody wants to see me because they don't know that I exist?
Well, the residency would be that like you're basically a paid like, you know, it's sort of like in a residency at like a restaurant. You know, you're the person that no one's there to see you.
They're just there.
They're there, and you happen to be the music playing. That's what they were talking about. I don't recommend that as a good advice, mostly because like that's not really what you wanted to be doing. But it also doesn't. I don't think your career would have had any growth in that situation either, because I'd be
the house band.
You'd be the house band. Yeah. What else? Oh, plan B. Oh yeah, have a plan B. This is ridiculous. If you don't focus your efforts on plan A or plan B and C, which are variations on how to get to A, you're wasting your time. No one has ever succeeded doing something kinda. You know, I have plan B. If you're spending time making sure your plan B, like you went to school.
I went to school to focus on my plan B.
Yeah. Like
even though I wanted plan A.
Yeah. And it's
that was terrible.
It's a bad advice. If you're putting time into two plans to make sure that if plan A doesn't go right, you're not really doing it right. Do not listen to people when they say have a plan B. You go, if they do tell you have a plan B, you go, I do have a plan B. It's another way to get to my plan A, because you should be focusing on your plan A. I've been doing it ever since I was a kid. I have been in the entertainment industry in one way or another since I was a kid. Yes, I had survival jobs here and there, but eventually I found a way to get out of that situation.
I think what would make your story like amazing is if at some point when you were like 8, you were actually part of the Mickey Mouse Club, but with a full beard.
Who says I wasn't? I did have my mom had free tickets to Disney every weekend when I was, I think, 8 or 9.
Really? Like Disney on Ice?
No, Disneyland, like we in Ocala.
Oh yeah,
because I lived in Ocala, so Orlando, we would go every weekend.
So why'd she have the free tickets?
Because the company she worked for gave her free tickets.
That's cool.
Sometimes you have to spend to earn. The reason I hate this is because in investing, other people's money is the best way to invest. So if you're going to work on a movie, like if you want to film a movie, don't use your own money. You know, where like Kevin Smith was a extremely rare occurrence. Rarely do people put that kind of money towards something and it's successful. Kevin Smith was a flash in the pan. It was one of those moments that just everything just worked out. You know, he just was in the right place at the right time with the right people. He didn't even want to be a filmmaker.
Really?
Yeah, no, he was in film school, but he was like, he just filmed that movie because he wanted to see a film that him and his friends would watch. That's it. Because he was watching film and they weren't talking about stuff he wanted to talk about. If you go, well, Kevin Smith did it. Again, you're focusing on the results and not necessarily the process.
Yeah, you're not seeing what he did and why he became Kevin Smith.
To be clear, Kevin Smith has recently filmed 2 movies or 3 movies that all were not produced, but he got money from other people and not necessarily studios. I believe Tusk was financed by investors. I know the Jay and Silent Bob movie, the reboot was also paid by other people.
It's also fascinating that he basically did the band route with that, where instead of just having distribution,
well, they did that with
wide. He basically did the tour thing.
He did that with Tusk, though. He started with Tusk.
I didn't realize that he did that with Tusk. I thought that was just like a.
No, he did it with Tusk, and he did it with the movie after that one, which is about his daughter's like the main actress in it. Anyway, my point is, even Kevin Smith didn't go back to that route, and he's wealthy, and he's not like, well, I'm going to spend my own money on this. No, you
get investors.
Get investors, because if you make them money, they're going to be happy and give you more money. And if you lose it, they're giving you money they know they can afford to lose. And if you go to an investor that cannot afford to lose that money, that's not a qualified investor. It's a bad investor. If it's like an uncle that's like, I got $5,000 for you, do not take that money unless they can afford. If it's money they can throw out, then that's fine. And that's why money management is important. I talk about it all the time. Have your 3 needs of purpose, right? Security, growth, and dream. Those needs, that security, growth, and dream, to protect yourself, invest in yourself, and reward yourself, is money over your expenses. If you have enough money to survive yourself on 3 to 6 months of safety net, and you're constantly taking all money in and dividing it by 60-40 and putting 60% into those 3 needs, that's money over your allocated living expense. Therefore, that's money you can throw out. The growth investing money is money you could literally burn on fire, and it will not put you in danger.
Though I would recommend not actually throwing out the money, because you can actually use it to do stuff.
Also, I think it's illegal to burn money, isn't it?
I mean, technically.
Right? Like
people really care.
No one cares. The Joker didn't. All right, anyway.
I want to see a magic trick.
If you build it, they will come. This is if I have an album, I'll make money. If I make a movie, I'll have money. If I write a book, I'll have money. If I do comedy, if I do a comedy show, I'll make money. All this is lies. If you build it, they will come. That is not true. No one will come to something they don't know about. They just won't.
The only reason why I worked in Field of Dreams is because there was a ghost.
There was a lot,
lots of ghosts.
And then like all the old people that were dead played, and people
like, this is great. Yeah, baseball. Where are my teeth?
And then Kevin Costner got to play ball with his father one last time.
Oh my God, it's so hot. I'm gonna cry now.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. This is a bad. This is a lie. It is a 100% lie.
It's not that it's bad advice. It's just wrong.
It's wrong. I'll prove it right now. Why don't you paint something and put it on your table? All right. And then wait at the door and see if anyone comes and buys it
for $1 million.
For $1 million. If they do, please let me know. But the stipulation is, if it's a guest that came over for something else and then they see it, that doesn't count. Because the thing itself is supposed to be. The reason this is bad advice is because it's not about building it. It's about building your brand's value, building the awareness of your existence. And then it just so happens you make these things. If you focus on the things you make, then your career will not grow, because you are the definition of your career. And ultimately, if you're trying to sell things, your career will never grow.
And that's why a lot of like the most successful celebrities are able to do multiple things and do multiple things. Like Jamie Foxx. I did do. Like Jamie Foxx, he started off in, as an actor, a comedian, then became an actor, and then ended up
comedic actor.
Yes. Yeah. And then eventually ended up going into music.
Well, he was always in music.
He was always in music?
Yeah.
I thought he ended up getting into music after being an actor.
No, his grandmother taught him how to play piano and sing.
Ooh.
To give him a tool. But comedy was his passion. So he focused on comedy, and he would do anything, including changing his name to Jamie Foxx, because they were only calling women up on the list. They would see like the sign-up list to do. So he just changed it to Jamie Foxx, and he's like, that's me. And they're like, ah. And then he used that to get into comedy stuff. So he started doing comedy, but he wanted to do more drama. But there became a certain point where he was able to do the music and make money with it. He was always doing the music. He says the moment he could afford to have a studio in his house, he built it. So music is actually one of his first like real like personal passions, but comedy was something he was like, I could see myself doing this
as a career.
But he's also a dramatic actor. There's many things that he is.
But first and foremost, he is a very, very business savvy individual.
Yeah, he's a business guy. He's great at network and stuff like that. And then finally, you're only as good as your last show. The reason this is ridiculous is because if you rely on your product, which your show is a product, you've already failed. Your career is already down the tubes, because what you do is not your job. So the things you sell is not your career. You're supposed to be building the value of your brand and your essence so that people buy your stuff. If I write a book, people are going to buy the book just because I wrote it. Just my fan base. I'm not saying I'm going to sell millions of copies, but I know that
people will be like, oh my God, he wrote a book. I'm going to read it.
Yeah. And if you look at a lot of celebrities, they write, they do movies, they sing, they whatever. They just,
some even have like their own clothing lines.
They have clothing lines.
Makeup
they have
lines.
Makeup lines. They have restaurants. They have whatever. They're diversifying.
A whole film festival.
You got to diversify. Anyway, those are our tips on how to be successful, and then some bad advice that.
But not the Q-tips.
Oh, please. Q-tips are really bad to use. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, well, if you're shoving them in your ear.
Oh, God. How do you clean your ears?
Usually I just let the dog lick them.
Is that true? It does work.
I mean, that's why I'm usually laying down.
Wait, when did you start dating?
Tomorrow.
No. I like to let the hot water melt it like it's supposed to, and then you just kind of clean it when you're cleaning your face.
And then I use the Q-tips once in a while for like, maintenance. And I also like sticking Q-tips up your penis hole when you're sleeping, your urethra.
I mean, well, that explains why it's always so clean.
It's always clean. Like I could put my mouth on it like a flute and be like,
funny story. It actually makes that sound.
Does it really? Have you ever had a girl go down on you? Like, why does it sound like you're whistling? Is there really that much room on both sides of her cheeks?
Yeah, they had this one actually like do an entire rendition of Peter and the Wolf,
which is crazy. We had Peter and the Wolf, which she was using the piccolo. Because Peter's the lead.
The penis hello.
I learned that song in one of my early school years, and then the second song I learned in the same class was "She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes, when she comes."
Were you playing the piccolo?
She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes, when she comes. She'll be riding 6 white horses. She'll be riding 6.
But were you playing the piccolo?
No, I what did I play in that? The recorder.
I remember having a recorder. when this is like elementary school, I'm guessing.
Wasn't it? No, it was probably 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah, it's elementary school.
What?
We ended up learning the Batman theme.
Did you?
Which
one?
Adam West. No.
My first song ever on the piano was the A-Team theme.
Boom, bing, bang. I love it when a plan comes together.
And I was like, can we learn stuff I like? I was like, what do you want to learn?
Dream Theater?
No, this was before Dream Theater. I was like, I don't know. I want to learn how to compose. Oh, you got to learn this stuff first. What?
What do I got to learn? Mary had a little line.
I don't get. They taught when I took like 2 lessons for guitar, and the first lesson was basically like, here's how to play a Beatles song. And I was like, why are you teaching me this? Well, it's good because it teaches you chord changes. I don't want to learn Beatles though. Why? Because I want to learn how to compose. Well, I'm going to teach you how to compose, but you're not. You're just telling me to play these chords, but not why.
That's something that I think is weird. I find that a lot of like modern genres will teach more theory and how to apply the theories this way people can, create and compose. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people who go into classical training are taught how to read and how to play the things, but they're not necessarily taught the theory and how to like improvise and how to make that.
I don't know, because Juilliard will teach you how to improvise because they literally have classes on that.
Really?
Yeah. Like musical improvisation.
Well, maybe that's why Juilliard is amazing, because I've definitely spoken to people who have grown up in the musical theater world and have studied musical theater and still don't understand.
First of all, the musical theater world is not even close to like a Juilliard school.
I didn't say it was. Theater,
no, listen. We're talking about 2 different things. I'm talking about composition. You're talking about like like, oh, you hit those notes, great. And they can teach them the sight read, but they don't necessarily teach them theory because their job is not to know the theory. Composers need to know theory. When I taught, I taught 2 things at the same time. I taught technique. So I would be like, I would finger technique and pick technique and also strumming. And then I would teach the theory behind whatever it is I taught them. And then sometimes they'd be like, teach me a Metallica song. I'd be like, fine. And it's not that I don't like Metallica, but I'm like, what, if you just want to learn songs,
here's the tabs.
I'm probably not the guitarist for you because, you're not going to learn anything by playing other people's music. You'll just like, how do you play really good stuff when you can't play at all? You got to learn those techniques, but then you learn the technique incorrectly just so you could play that thing. You're like, look, I'm playing it. Like, man, not really playing it. Yeah, you're not really playing it. It sounds like crap.
It's so supportive.
It sounds like crap.
But on that note,
anyway, I don't make this stuff up.
I make up at least 50% of it.
Yeah, and the dog makes up about 100% of it, 50% of the time. It's mostly because I'm the smarts.
And I'm the hearts.
Yeah, and Burial's definitely earlier, as proof, the farts. And remember, don't work too hard.
But be productive.
That's right. Do we have anything else? Oh, I got it.
Wash behind your ears?
Yeah, wash behind your ears. And also, if she's pretty. Okay, bye.